All right. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Agent Inspired on the Agent Power Huddle. I'm your host, Dill Ward, and I'm joined today with an amazing guest. And her and I feel like we're just two bodies and one person. I feel like just a little bit I know about you. I cannot wait to dig in and learn more. But all things inspired today, trying to keep the eye on the prize of keeping ourselves engaged fully in this business, in this industry, and in our lives and showing up fully. So, thank you for joining us today on the Agent Power Huddle. Aubrey, hi, welcome.
Good morning, Dill. Thanks so much for asking me to be a guest.
Yeah, when I was thinking about people that I've just come across in the peripheral of real estate industry, I always hear your name. Like it just comes up all the time, but I've never actually got to have more than a conversation with you. And for agents out there who are in production, sometimes the only interactions you have with people are like a text message. You're like, "Hey, can I show your property? Hey, are there any offers?" It's like your entire interaction is based on what you put in your text message. And so I said to Aubrey, "Hey, would you like to come on the show today?" Because I know for our agents out there listening, if you're just getting started, if you've been at this a long time and you need to get re-inspired, I know that what we're going to drop today is going to do that for you. Um, Aubrey, I literally know nothing about you. I read your quick bio, I watched a couple of videos, and everything I could see, I was like, I feel like we have led parallel lives, and I kind of can't wait to dive in a little bit more. You're in the Portland area too, right?
I am. I live in Bethany, which is kind of in the Beaverton section. We've lived here on and off since 2002. So we've really seen just significant growth, of course, in the Bethany area in that time.
Awesome. And for those of you out there, that's Oregon. This is national show. So I just wanted to remind everybody where we are because we would love to help your clients here in Portland, Oregon, if you have a need. Okay, cool. And so one of the things I think I read, and you can fill me in on this, but I feel like you relocated here kind of much like my own story, where you just kind of landed in the city and you're like, okay, I'm a realtor now. And I know for a lot of our audience, that is part of their story. And so that's why I was really fascinated to learn more, just sort of how you got first of all, like how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been an interesting trajectory. I'm from New York City originally. I came out here for college. I went to college up in Olympia, Washington. Met my husband out there about 25 years ago. Real estate was not on my radar. I was actually in education. I was in college admissions. I was a high school teacher. So really was not thinking about real estate at all. Moved back to where my family was living at the time in Maine and just lived there for about 15 years. My oldest son is through adoption. He's from India, and there were just not that many people of color in Maine. And so we decided to move back to an area where we felt he would just have a little bit more access to services, but just had more people that kind of looked like him. So we moved back to Bethany, an area that we had lived in before. And my husband had said for years, I think you'd be excellent at real estate because my job has really always been in consultative sales in some way. Not sales necessarily, but kind of education. My parents moved around a lot when I was a kid, lots of interest in architecture and sales and all that stuff. So I actually got licensed in July of 2017, and I had zero sphere when we moved back to Portland, like absolutely none. I didn't know anybody. All my friends from college had sort of moved on. So I really had to kind of start from scratch. And that was a really interesting start because I believe I did 13 transactions my first year, but I didn't have any idea as to kind of why, how I got there. And I think one of the things that I really discovered in that first year is I spent an awful lot of time trying to fit in here. I don't know if you're aware, Dill. I feel like you are. The West Coast is very different from the East Coast. The energy is different. The pace of speech is different. Just I'm very direct. It can be perceived differently here. So I spent a lot of energy that first year trying to fit in. And I took this class that's through Keller Williams called Bold. And one of the things that I really decided was that I just couldn't waste energy on that anymore. It was exhausting trying to be someone that I wasn't. And I felt like if I was just authentically myself, that the people, I'd find my people. And I was very clear, really from day one, who I was interested in talking with, how I was going to grow my business, and who were the people that I wanted to work with, as opposed to who were the people that I didn't. And to really keep those boundaries. I'm someone who am not super, political in my social media life, but in my personal life, I am. And it was really important for me to share my business, my clients with people that I share kind of human rights values with. And if they weren't, then that's cool. Like, everybody, that's the West Coast taught me, like just kind of, live and let live. But I wasn't wanting to spend time away from my children and time away from my other clients to spend time with people and to give business to people with whom I wasn't really aligned. Once I sort of decided that in that first year, my whole business just completely blew up as a solo agent.
Oh my gosh. I just knew it. I mean, there's some people you meet in life or even hear about. You don't even meet them. You just hear about them and you just know. I just feel like we are living in a parallel universe. And I wish I had learned that lesson 5 years earlier. But I do think that when I finally gave myself permission to really be authentically me, I had a coach. I've said this on the show before. I had a coach that I paid a lot of money to. And the main premise of the result was like, Dill, you should be more you. And it was so maddening at the time. I'm like, how does someone just be more of themselves? That's not even possible, right? But it was literally the breakthrough I needed to just get a little more weird and just be cool and just be myself. And so I have
Portland is
ever
good
since
for that.
then, yeah, I've been trying to pass the torch forward to every agent I even come in contact with. I'm like, you should be more you. And they're just like, they might not be ready to hear it. But I think that we are all just a different color of crayon in the box and we just need to own our colors. So
I
I
think
love
that honestly, right now, that people really want that vulnerability. They want that transparency. I would say now, even more than since the pandemic, really, is that people are desperate for things that aren't necessarily curated and shiny and new. Like things are messy. And so just be who you are and, of course, be professional, but I don't think you have to be anything other than what you are. And really, I think the reason why my business has done so well is because one of the things that I focused on from the beginning, from day one, is to meet other women in the service industry that I could refer my clients to. So women in construction, women electricians and plumbers and cleaners and all of those folks. That decision was because my mother was an electrical engineer for Con Edison, which was the electric company in New York City, and she passed away at 9/11. And so since then, I've been sort of working to just sort of honor her memory by honoring other women in a profession that is not usually have a lot of women. So I really started that from the beginning, and that kind of led into my directories. That led into a networking group that is specifically for women in the service industry. We meet every month. There's like 50 to 70 women that come and meet in person every month. That's really, really important part of my business. And again, not to say that there aren't excellent men in those fields as well, except to say that, women have typically been sort of marginalized in those fields. And I feel like if they do an excellent job, then I'd like to promote that.
I love this. And they say, where your focus and energy goes, energy flows. And it's just about your intention. I knew there had to be some backstory on our cross contamination because I feel like when I first learned about you, so I've been in real estate maybe since 2009-ish in this area. And I would start when I first learned about you, I would start to see like crossover of a couple people and then a couple more people and then a couple more people. And I'm like, wow, this person's gaining a lot of network fast. And I also built my entire business through women business mixers. So have a soft spot and also want to help fellow women find their footing. And I think I heard you say in an interview somewhere, and it's something that I say all the time, is women can have their own microeconomy that is completely removed from what's happening in the macro world. We have so much influence over the household purchasing decision, not just the house itself, but all of the services, right? We decide when it's time. I literally have an electrician coming to my house today to get a bid for a fan. And it's not because I like asked my husband, I'm like, I want to get a fan. So I'm going to get someone to get it. So we have so much influence over that. And the fact that supporting each other through that sounds like that's what you did to kind of get started, right? Just
Yeah,
getting
I
them
really,
together one by one.
yeah, I met with them in my office to have tea. for like half an hour and just learned about what they did and who their ideal client was and what areas they served. And it wasn't about me and real estate. It wasn't like, hey, would you like to buy, sell, or invest? Like none of that stuff. It was really just about what they, could use, how I could kind of help. And yeah, the microeconomy piece is important because I feel like we all need this stuff anyway. So we may as well just use the people that we know, love, and trust, and we, know their kids. I tell this story. I have a friend, Jackie, who's a health insurance guru. She lives out in Forest Grove. I helped her buy her house. But we're self-employed, so we need health insurance. And so I refer everybody over to Jackie for any sort of health insurance stuff that they need. And part of it is because she's excellent and she does a great job and all of that. But I also know the names of all five of her children. I have a vested interest in making sure that she is healthy and her kids are healthy and she has food on the table. And so if you're going to need health insurance anyway, like why not support the person that you know? It culminates for us in this annual event. We actually just had it a couple of weeks ago called the Gratitude Dinner or the Gratitude Brunch. And it's really just getting all of my service providers in the same room to say thank you for an excellent year of service. And so we provide food and music and all that good stuff. But it's also awesome, speaking about the microeconomy, because they're all meeting each other. And so I'm like, listen, yes, it's a gratitude event, but it's also for you to actually connect with other people in the room so that my circle becomes much bigger circle and so that you can start meeting other people that could also use your services. And that's been an incredible thing to witness is when my transaction coordinator is getting married and meets my florist on retainer and decides to use her for her wedding flowers. Like that kind of stuff is really just awesome to watch. So the microeconomy piece is definitely a big one. Networking is definitely my biggest leg of lead generation. I only work via referral. So really networking and referrals are the two things that I really focus on. And I don't really focus on anything else, just events, referrals, and my networking. That's it. Because the rest of it
That's
is
it. That's it. That's
fine.
awesome.
And other people do other things and it's awesome. But those are the things that I focus on and I do them at a high level. And I don't door knock. I don't cold call. It's not my personality. So that's it. I don't do open houses anymore. Like those things are all excellent and valid. They're just not my stream.
And that's what I try to tell agents too. You don't need to do everything. You just got to pick a couple things that you love. And I love the way you said it. I do a couple things at high level. And
Right.
now let me take you back. Now I remember my story, but I would love to hear yours. Take you back to the first time you had to write a check to host a gratitude breakfast or lunch or do a thing. The very first time you have to invest money, which seems not a tangible thing that you can say, oh yeah, I'm paying for postcards or I'm paying for like a thing. You're just going on hope. I remember, I remember every time I've had to go, okay, I think this is a good idea. Take me back to like the faith and the belief that you had that you knew that this was going to work.
So gratitude brunch aside, and I'm going to put an asterisk by that because that's a little bit of a different beast for me. The other events that I do an ice cream event on the last day of school. I just did like a farm event in October. We're doing the hops games in June and all that stuff. So all of the events that I actually have sponsors for. So I partner with my lender or just another service provider. And so, yes, of course, I'm participating too with a check, but it's also much easier because I've got other people that are also contributing, and then I'm branding them. I do a lot with social media, so I'm cross promoting them all the time. The only asterisk to that is the gratitude brunch because I feel like it would be really gauche, as my mom would say, to have vendors pay for an event that I'm thanking them for. So that's the one that I actually pay for completely. But the other ones I have help with, and I really have from day one. That's sort of my background in kind of the education piece of it, but also I used to work for March a Dime, so I have a lot of nonprofit experience. And so, having sponsors was something that was very normal to me. And I really spotlight them and highlight them to make sure and introduce them to people at the event so that they know. So like I've got a lender partner who's going to be providing all of the lunch over at the Hops game that we're doing in June. Right. So I'm dealing with the tickets. I might have another sponsor for that. And then she's dealing with all the lunches. So it doesn't feel painful to me. But that being said, my very first event, if you're starting from the beginning, was an event at my office. And so it was free. And what we had was a Halloween event. So what we had were a couple of people that came in to sponsor, brought in some, inexpensive stuff for like the trick-or-treating type stuff. And I just invited different vendors to come and hand out candy and snacks and whatever else. We had a movie playing. I think it was Nightmare Before Christmas in the actual building. And it was free. And we had everybody sign in. It was a community event. I didn't really know anybody. And so you don't have to do big, expensive, splashy events. You can do the events that kind of meet you where you are. Because what I do now is really because I'm really loving on and leading on my database and thanking my clients for sticking around and all that good stuff. So, but that takes time to build up to. You don't have to start there. You don't have to write a check for $5,000 for an event that you may not know will fly. So you start small where you are and you can get sponsors and yeah, it works. It works pretty well.
I want to give you credit because it sounds like you've always had the mindset of running this business like a business. Like you knew how to get scrappy and how to influence people and to include them. And, nothing gets people bought in more on you than including them in the process and in the experience. So even giving someone an opportunity to sponsor, to get in front of an audience so that they don't have to do the heavy lifting to gather the humans. Like I like to say in all my event planning, we have to gather the humans. You were very generous in that way, but also bold and willing. And this is for all the agents out there who are listening. If you're listening to this show, it's because you want to get your butt kicked, to be reminded to stay inspired, to be bold, to take brave action. And taking brave action means asking people if they want to get involved in something that you're doing, even if you don't know them very well. Even me asking Aubrey to come on the show today is an act of bravery, just saying, hey, would you like to do this? And it's all about the energy that you couple everything you do. So the way that she probably didn't just go to her sponsors like, hey, you want to pay some money to be on this thing? No, she probably like got them hopped up and casted the vision around why it's going to be such an amazing experience that they'd want to be involved in. And
I'm also very loyal to people, right? So like I got to know their business and who they wanted to meet. You have to have that information before pitching any of this to anybody. And also, I think a really big piece of this is that, my goal is, my energy is that you're talking about is actually to be of service to others. When I have a closing, I'm tagging everybody that had anything to do with the closing, not just lenders and title people, but my gift givers and my cleaners and my stagers and the person who came in to fix the plumbing. I mean, everybody, because the reality is that these people, if we have to be honest, are not making per job what we do. So I want to highlight them and I want them to work for other people that I also love. So being of service to these folks on a regular basis and having them be out there in public, they want to go to these events. They want to sponsor because they see me doing the work in promoting them on a constant basis. And it doesn't mean I only have one person in every category. It doesn't mean that I only have one inspector. You've got to have sort of a breadth of different people that are good for different clients, right? But that being said, you know, that piece of it is really, really important, is to truly come from service is the reason why I think that these vendors keep coming back to me.
I love that. Thank you for putting all that additional context because absolutely it's such an important aspect of including anyone in your ecosystem. And I think anyone who subscribes to this show wants to keep being reminded to have a bigger purpose. Like we want to be transformational in people's lives and not just transactional and not just, hey, go clean a house or hey, go do a thing. Like, guys, we have access. I mean, I was talking to one of my agent friends about this. I was thinking, what other industry do they have endless education and training and podcasts and classes and conferences to become a better human? Right? Like a lot of our professionals that work in our network with us, they have like very little access to the kind of big level thinking that we do. So I feel like it's our duty to drip it down, like to share it out, to spread it out, and to empower everyone at every interaction to see a bigger vision for themselves and to have hope, because that is the thing we are in deficit in this world right now is hope that there's better days coming and we're all in it together and that they're not alone.
That's why those networking opportunities are so important to participate in. because you can get kind of run down, I think, with the way things are. And I think you need that like good energy from other people. This idea of like a rising tide floats all boats, we all come up together. It's really powerful. You know, to be transparent, assuming that most of the people on here listening are in real estate, like real estate has been tough and it's not going to get easier anytime soon, right? You know, at my highest, I think I sold 74 homes as an individual agent. Last year was 51. 51 is still an incredible number, but it's not 74. And part of that is because, the every transaction is a little bit difficult right now. You have to just be, there's a lot more energy sort of put into each of them. And being that I'm an individual agent, but I have a lot of leverage, right? I have a transaction coordinator who's in-house at my brokerage. I've got someone in the office who can help me with showings. She has her own business, but I pay her part of the commission when the home closes. She sits inspections, she'll meet contractors and all that sort of stuff over there. Because I have children, I have a family, I have a life. I cannot be everything to everyone. And I make a promise to my children. This is how many transactions I'm going to do for the year. And anything above that, I refer out. And 74 almost killed me. That was the joy of 2021. So the next year it was 60. And honestly, I couldn't get to 60 because that year I think was 2023. And 2023 was not as, like that's when things started a tumbling. So now I'm just like, look, you know, when I'm done, I'm done. I actually am completely booked up this summer for listings. I literally can't take any more. I tell people, like, here's my next date. If you want it, great. If you don't, then I'm going to refer you to someone else who can take care of you. Because, I spend the summer with my children and I know what I can handle and what I can't. And to be in that sort of position, in this kind of market, I feel very lucky. Because, I mean, honestly, some agents are only doing a couple. We're talking seasoned agents because it's just a hard, hard market. So for me, I have a system that works really well. There's always going to be people that need to buy and sell. They're getting married, they're divorcing, they're dying, unfortunately, they're downsizing, they're relocating. There's always reasons why people have to buy and sell, regardless of the interest rate, regardless of, because they have motivation that is sort of outside of all of that. And you just have to find those people and be the person that's top of mind. And I think that if you are constantly being of service to other people, and cross promoting those people, you're always at top of mind for them and for everybody sort of around them too. So it's not, I think sometimes in real estate, we make it a little harder than it has to be. I really believe that.
And I like to say a lot, real estate is just a numbers game and it's not zero. If you look in the MLS at any time, even in the worst economic recession of 2008, whatever, you look in it's still transactions are happening,
Of
but
course,
it's a
yeah.
numbers game. So if you're not getting in front of enough people, a lot of agents that I'll talk to, I'm like, how many people do you talk to? They're like three. Well, I'm like, you need to like triple, quadruple that to get to the gold if you're just trying to get started, and you're just
Yeah.
trying to find someone with a real estate need. And I'm like you, I didn't want a cold call or door knock or anything. I wanted people coming to me. So I just said, hey, I'm doing a thing. Who wants to come do a thing? And I remember being the leader and host of a networking group. And I think it was year 3 before I said, maybe I should be the one that makes the announcements. Cause I was like too scared to like be the one that's like, here's the announcement. So I would always ask them, hey, can you make the announcements? And I'm like, this is my group. Like this person's not doing any better than I would be doing if I just tried. And through the course of becoming a group leader, I then, developed a speaking career because I wanted to get better and better and better and got coaching and got help. And it's like, it's when we put ourselves at the mercy of the uncomfortableness is when our biggest growth can happen. And when we can see transformations that we weren't even looking for by just trying to be nice and kind to other people and get going. So I really encourage everyone out there, just literally host anything, host a day in the park and get a badminton set or like Aubrey said, like you can just use a coffee shop or office or anything. Like you don't have to be so extravagant, but you have to start. And if event planning and organizing and getting people together is exciting to you and brings you energy, then that can be such an incredible sphere builder.
There was a gentleman who works at Keller Williams who is now in The sort of the international section, but once upon a time he was just this dude in Michigan who owned brokerages, and he came out to Portland to speak. I don't know, gosh, it must have been 7 years ago. His name is Jason Abrams, and one of the things that he talked about really landed with me, which is this idea that just find something that you truly like to do and do that with other people. And that becomes your sphere. If you don't have a big one, if you're someone who likes to go play tennis, go invite your friend who likes to play tennis and all of their friends who like to play tennis. And it doesn't mean, again, that you pick up your racket and you're like, hey, do you know anybody who wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Right? Like you're literally creating this group of people. It comes up. Like be aware of what's going on in the market, be aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. But that stuff does come up normally in conversation. It does not have to be extravagant. I will say I love this idea that you mentioned about, getting uncomfortable because I think that is where the most growth happens. One of the things that was not on my radar or my bingo card for a long time was this idea of speaking. And I was asked to speak, I think it was 2 years ago now, at a big sort of brokerage brouhaha in front of 10,000 people on stage with like the founder of the company. And I thought that I might have some sort of nervous breakdown. I have no issues with speaking with smaller groups. I've done a lot of podcasts. I've done a lot of kind of speaking on panels and all of that. But in front of 10,000 people in Texas, in the sweltering heat on stage with like the founder of the company was a big, big thing. I actually had my children. I told them this was part of my thing is I need to have my kids in the first row, in the right first row, so I could see them, so that I can make eye contact with them, so that I wouldn't be so freaked out. And you know what, Dill? I didn't die. That to me was like a huge win. I didn't die. And it has opened the door to a lot of other things. I actually was just featured in a book that's coming out called Rookie Real Estate Agent, which is specifically a book written by Jay Papasan to new agents, right? This idea that like doing scary things outside of your comfort zone can really lead to other things that are really, really wonderful that you weren't really expecting. So just sort of getting out of your comfort zone in making sure that if it's lead generation, that it's something that you will like to do because the best kind of lead generation is the one that you'll do. But that aside from that, like get a little uncomfortable. It's okay. Feel it, like get in the water a little bit. Get your fingers pruny. Let's see what happens. And like the worst thing that happens is you don't like it and you don't do it again. But the best thing that could happen is that it leads to a lot of other opportunities. And that's real estate is really all about the opportunities as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I love that too. And I think the worst thing that happens is nothing. And then you get out of the business because you run out of money. I think that's the worst thing that happens. So please,
Yeah.
everyone out there, just take action. Take one decision today that you're going to take action to think of something that you can do and put together and host or something to bring humans together to see if you like them. And if you like them, keep them. And if you don't, catch and release, throw them back. It's all good.
We all
Permission
started
granted.
somewhere. Not everybody did lead generation in the same way in the beginning of the business. We phased out of those things and tried new things. And then we're like, okay, I did a class for 7 years, a buyer's class every single month. And as that started to lose steam, I'm like, you know what? Maybe this has just had its time. And maybe we're just not doing that anymore for right now. And that's okay. It's fine. As long as you pick up something else to replace it, you're good.
I love that. That is so fabulous. Wow, the time just went by so quick. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your heart and your story. Let's leave everyone with like something really powerful today. Let's say, what's one thing that you do to get yourself back in state? Like you get pissed off, someone sends you a text message, you can't interpret it, you're trying to like shake it off. What is the one thing you do to get back in state?
I personally love music, and the Calm app. I love the Calm app. But for me personally, music is really beneficial. New Yorkers have a tendency to, I think, sort of react first. And that was definitely something I've been working on for many, many years is just like let it process, listen to some music, bring your blood pressure down a little bit, process it, and then respond. And I feel like music is really what helps me to do that, and the Calm app.
That's awesome. Yes, a third party distraction, any kind, right? And something we talk about a lot on this show is just being in optimal state in order to perform. It requires self regulation, requires self awareness. It requires knowing when you've been triggered or you're out of flow and you're no longer able to be operating from your highest and best inspired space. So, whatever yours is today, remind yourself that there's a tool in your pocket at any second. It's music, it's dancing, it's calling a friend, it's writing, it's whatever it is for you, but pull it out and use it before you react in a way that you will not be proud of and you don't want remembered, so you can be your best self. So we're going to close it up now, but hey, until next time, guys, stay inspired, keep curious, be bold, and I'll see you on the next episode.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.